Very good.
Thank you very much. Honorable Vice Chancellor and my friends, this is my university. And therefore, I should be thanking you for doing me this honor, particularly of giving the inaugural talk of what promises to be a great series. I love the word eyes, by the way, because it is through eyes that you see the world. It is through eyes that we conceive of the future beyond the possible. It is through this that we are going to envision, let's say, a new India of the 21st century. And who is going to build it? You are going to build it. So it's a special privilege to give a talk about the future India to the future of India, which is sitting right in front of us. I feel extremely privileged and honored. I have deliberately chosen the title, Making Impossible Possible. Because if you really ask me, if there is one thing that we need to do, is to believe in ourselves and say, yes, we can. Yes, I can. How do you imbibe that spirit, including in your scientific research, but even beyond that, is going to the subject on which I am going to talk. Let me begin by just sort of asking ourselves, what would you consider were the most powerful equations? And my great friend and guru, Kumar Chitre, one of our greatest scientists, is here. And Kumar, if I were to ask you, what were the most powerful equations, you will also, I'm sure, will say that they were also the simplest ones. Newton, F equal to ma, Einstein, E equal to mc square, and so on, Maxwell. However, I propose an equation which is going to be valid for millennia and which is going to be the most powerful one. And that is E equal to F. Now what is E and what is F? E is education and F is future. Education equal to future. If there is no education, there is no future. And therefore I want to remind ourselves all here that this great university, our own university, as a world-class institution in education, has this responsibility of building our future. Now, when we do that, the world is changing. We all agree. We look at the 21st century. We say 21st century is going to be the century of knowledge. In fact, many people go beyond by saying it's going to be the century of mind. Words like knowledge economy have come to stay. And knowledge, Saraswati, and economy, Lakshmi, they get linked. The richest individual, a point in time, was Sultan of Brunei, based on resource, which was oil. Then we talked about John Rockefeller, manufacturing, industrial enterprise, and so on. And then we started talking about Bill Gates, who are just creating products of mind, if you like. Software is a product of mind. All right? So things have changed over a period of time. We have talked about agriculture economy moving to industrial economy, to knowledge economy, and people are now talking about creative economy. As you have affluence, you will see different types of demands basically come up. And animation, for example, is a $1 trillion industry already, and so on and so forth. So you have seen these dramatic changes that are taking place. But what about India? Where does India basically stand? Let me begin by telling you that we have seen number of freedoms for India. come over the course of last few decades. We had our political freedom, 1947. When did the second freedom come? 1991. 24 July 1991. That was freedom to compete. All right? When Dr. Manmohan Singh, our current Prime Minister and then Finance Minister, stood and liberalized India, so as to say. Okay? And that freedom was very important. That is how India has become the darling of the world today, so as to say. And then came the third freedom, technology freedom. You might say, when did it come? Year 2008, when we signed the nuclear deal. Believe me, access to dual-use technology was something that was holding us back, whether it was supercomputer, whether it was cryogenic engine. I still remember we had this Saras project. Saras was a 14-seater aircraft which was being developed by National Aerospace Laboratory. Starter generator, one component out of 15,000 was, Kumar, on the entities list, and the project got delayed by 18 months. One component out of 15,000. Okay? Now, with this deal, you will see the access completely changing, so as to say. So we had the first, second, and the third freedom. And we require the fourth freedom. And what is that freedom for? Normally, when I have time, I go around and get a sense of what you think should be the fourth freedom that India should be aspiring for. And I get different answers, by the way. Freedom from corruption, freedom from poverty. On the other day, there was also freedom from poverty of thought. Because it's an Indian mind. So as to say, I mean, a whole range of things come. So we are well on our way. Now the important point is that in all these transformations, you will see that somebody on the way has made the impossible possible, or thought of making the impossible possible. I still remember when Dr. Manmohan Singh spoke on 24 July 1991, there was a debate in the Parliament. And in that debate, I still remember one of the politicians from opposition, he said, he was critical of Dr. Manmohan Singh. You know what he said? He said, one time a great scholar, but now an arrogant politician, he is going to sell India to the East India companies. Selling India to East India companies. Sorry, it's exactly the other way around. We are buying the East India companies. It's incredible. I sit on the Tata Motors board. Who would have thought that we'll be acquiring Jaguar Land Rover? Who would have thought that Tatas would be acquiring Chorus? Tata Steel would be acquiring Chorus. We are picking up foreign companies. It is just the other way around. I think the basic issue that I want to emphasize is your ability to think, and making that impossible possible is very critical. And for that, you require that extremely positive attitude that yes, we can. I always said there is no limit to human imagination. There is no limit to human achievement, excepting the limits we put on ourselves. Second, when you look at the ladder of excellence, please understand that it is limitless. Okay? And therefore, each one of you, how do you climb that limitless ladder of excellence, I think is the big challenge. And you can reach as far as you want to, not what others think you can, what you can. I am coming from a very fascinating experience, again a similar crowd, similar set of people. I was young people. I was in Hubli. Doing what? There were three people on the dais. Myself, Ratan Tata, and Narayan Murthy. Desh Deshpande, whom I think many of you might be knowing, Deshpande Foundation, you know, he created that great company, Sycamore and other companies, and in MIT there is that great Deshpande Innovation Center, a very great visionary. So he had organized these meetings, and three of us actually interacted with something like 5,000 young people during 2 days. And it was incredible. One could get a sense, one could see the passion in the belly, one could see the glint in the eye, one could get that sense that they did not believe that anything was impossible. You know. And I remember during a question answer, somebody, because it was mostly interactive, somebody asked me as to how did you acquire the title of dangerous optimist. You know, people call me dangerous optimist, Durdamya Ashawadi. So I said, look, the fact that Ratan and I were sitting together here makes me Durdamya Ashawadi. Why? Because as you all know, I was born in a very poor family. I was brought up right here in Bombay. Then Bombay, I am now Mumbai. I am being very precise. And I still remember my mother had left Goa, Mashail. She had come here. And 2 meals a day was a big challenge. She was illiterate. I studied under street lights. Janjira Motor Works. Chaupati line, I used to study, by the way, at Bombay Central Station. After the last train to Gujarat left at 10 o'clock, there was a peace and quiet, but also light. So I used to study there. Very tough circumstances. And in the year in 1960, in the SSC board, Maharashtra SSC board, I had stood 11th among 135,000 students. But still, I was about to leave my education and take up a job because my mother couldn't afford it. And it was Sir Dorab Tata Trust, which actually sort of gave me 60 rupees per month for 6 years. That's how I could study. At that time, I told them an interesting story, by the way, just to prove the point, you can make the impossible possible. And just to prove the point about my equation, E equal to F. Not my equation, our equation. It is a well-known equation. Education is equal to future. So I said 1st October 2011 was a very important day in my life because on that day, the American Academy of Arts and Science, did something wonderful. This academy was established in 1780 by Benjamin Franklin and George Washington. Election to that academy is considered to be a great honor. There are more than 200 Nobel Laureates, Pulitzer Prize winners who have been fellows, right from Winston Churchill to Charles Darwin, from Nelson Mandela to Einstein. I mean, a whole range of people. It's very fascinating, the membership of this. So you might say, from 1780 onwards, who have been the Indian fellows who have been elected? How many? I would say 7. From 1780, only 7. And interestingly, the 6th and the 7th fellow signed in the book on that day, one after the other. You know who was the 6th? Ratan Tata. And you know who was the 7th? He's speaking to you, me. And interestingly, Kumar, what happened was that Ratan had got it in 2010 and I got it in 2011, but he couldn't make it. So coincidentally, we came together. And on the same page, one after the other, we signed. Now, just imagine, in 1960, when I was going to Bombay House, which is the house of Tatas, on Bruce Street, Flora Fountain, to collect 60 rupees, if somebody had said that 50 years down the line, the head of the house of Tatas and you will sign in the same book, one after the other, I would not have believed it. It would have looked like a dream. But that dream came true. Making impossible possible, isn't it? Now, how did that happen? Education, education, education. Education gave me the opportunity, to climb on that ladder. And however, as one moved around, and I'm going to narrate to you my experience as a scientist, because bulk of the time, we always feel that, oh God, if you have to win a Nobel Prize, you have to have some $1 billion spent and so on, so forth, etc. I'm sorry. That is not the case. It is not the power of the budget, it is the power of idea. That's it. Okay? Now, how do you get to that is the issue. Because we always felt, oh, India cannot win a Nobel Prize because we are not a rich country. I'm sorry. That's not the issue at all. In fact, in that Hubli interaction, I gave a particular example, and because there are science students, I want to repeat that example. You must have seen 3 years ago, Nobel Prize went to graphene. Now, what is graphene? You take a piece of paper, for example, which is plain. You put a carbon atom, another carbon atom, another carbon atom, just one atom thick, okay? And that entire plane, that is graphene. Now, that Nobel Prize was shared by two people. One of them was a postdoc, Russian postdoc in mid-30s. And what did he do? He did something very simple. He had a graphite, because carbon comes in many forms, as you know. Graphite, took a scotch tape, put it there, put another scotch tape, unfolded it, folded it, unfolded it, folded it, unfolded it, folded it, till you got that planar structure that I talked about, one atom thick. That was graphene. And why are people excited about it? They feel that that's going to be the next gen sort of electronic material and so on and so forth. So functionally, it's going to create a new revolution. That's why it got such an early Nobel Prize. And also structurally. In fact, it is so strong that supposing you take a 2 kilogram weight of a cat which is weighing just 2 kilograms, and just take out its whisker, you can see what would be the weight. For that weight, it can support that 2 kilograms. That is the strength of that material. So we are talking about something which is super. But remember that Russian postdoc in mid-30s actually was able to conceive of an idea which must have cost him what? Kumar, they scotch tape घेतली, graphite घेतलं, त्याला किती पैसे लागतील? 10 rupees? So it doesn't take $1 billion. It's this that matters. Okay? And again, when you see things which everybody else sees, but you think of things which nobody else thinks. That's the definition of an innovator, by the way. Okay? That's why when they famously say, hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people must have seen the apple fall, but when Newton saw it, he thought of something which none of us could think. Right? How do you develop that ability in science? I think it's going to be very critical. And therefore, one of the first things we need to do is to develop that attitude of questioning, of building curiosity, of challenging, and so on and so forth. And that's why I'm sorry to say there are, eminent leadership in higher education which is sitting right in front, and it is their concern as well as our concern. Examination systems which are based on single correct answer. Are we going to create thought leaders? Are there single correct answers, excepting in science? I can't change Avogadro number. Agreed. But most of the things in life have multiple answers, and there are multiple pathways of reaching there. Do we allow that? We don't allow that. There is a set answer, a set question, and that is how our systems work. So fundamentally, unless you start challenging the status quo, creating this flexibility and freedom to teach, to learn, and there are multiple ways. Now digital learning is going to make a dramatic difference. I don't know how many of you have read Clayton Christensen's book on Innovation University, which came just a few months ago. Yeah, 1, 2. I think all of you should read that book. Because it talks about the way the new world is basically going to evolve. I think we need to address these issues fundamentally. The ability to question. Breakthroughs take place when you don't accept status quo. You say, no, this is not done. I will find a solution. And you become a part of a solution, not a part of a problem. then you can achieve things. There's a famous story, this Edwin Land, who created Polaroid later on. He had taken his daughter for a holiday. And as he was photographing her, and those were days when instant cameras didn't exist, Polaroid didn't exist. And as he was photographing her, she turned to him and she said, Dad, can I see it now? That means, can I see the picture now? Now, that would have looked ridiculous, isn't it? Because that was at a time when you had to take that film, process it, and then, you would get it back in several days and the rest of it. Supposing same question was asked in an Indian family to, let's say, an Indian father or a mother, what would have said? Don't be silly. Go study. He didn't do that. He said, why not? And actually, after around 3 years after that question was asked, he had developed the core technology which went behind Polaroid. Now, who do you say was the inventor of Polaroid? That girl who conceived that you can get an instant photograph. Okay? Her father executed that idea. That's a different matter. And he knew the science to do it. That's a different thing. Now, unless you had asked that question that, yes, I don't want status quo, I want certain results, you cannot achieve them. I would say that this happens all around. And as a matter of fact, the moment you start developing attitudes where you are saying, no, I cannot stay with this problem, I must find a solution, you create solutions. 1.2 plus billion Indians. I don't look at them as 1.2 billion plus mouths. There are 1.2 billion minds. Okay? And each one of them is capable of innovating, for example. There is a National Innovation Foundation that I chair for almost last 10 years. We give these awards. We get more than 100,000 entries, and we give around 30 awards. Last year when the awards were given, and they are given always at the hands of the President, by the way, President of India. This year they are being given on 7th March by the current President. So, out of those 30, practically 50% of them were illiterate people. Or may I put it the other way around, they were not adulterated by formal education. Put it like that. Okay? Because innovator is one who does not know that it cannot be done. That's the beauty of the young. The Vice Chancellor and I were talking about it, because this attitude that we cannot accept no for an answer, and that is the power of New India. Because when we talk about 55% of India being less than 25, Kumar, we are talking about 600 million plus Indians who do not know it cannot be done. That is the power that we have. How do we develop that attitude? To take, we don't take no for an answer. We can't be a part of a problem solution. Now, you might say that you are giving examples from Edwin Land and so on and so forth, etc. Come on, come to India and tell us how things have been done. And because we are talking about science, we are talking about technology, we are talking about innovation, let me give examples from here. Where people have done things which sort of have proven that if you only go for it, you can get the answers. Let me come nearer home, rather than giving other examples. My mother, Anjani Mashelkar, used to say that when you are poor, there is a challenge. When you are old, there is a challenge. If you are poor and old, there is a big challenge. And if you are poor and old and a woman, God save you. So she always used to tell me, you are a scientist, what are you doing for these people? And I tried to do a lot, but that's a different matter. So when she passed away, I created an award in her name. It is called Anjani Mashelkar Inclusive Innovation Award. What is inclusive innovation? Inclusive innovation is one that is not exclusive, obviously. Or in other words, what I'm saying is that we have this challenge of, let's say, engineers always getting more from less. Isn't it? Mainframe computer used to occupy the size of this room. Today, I'm carrying these things, and you see the power of what they have, more than those of the mainframe computers, so as to say. Okay? So it is getting more from less. But is it available for more and more people? No. Can more and more people afford that? No. And therefore, how do you create solutions which are not only affordable, extremely affordable, not low cost, ultra low cost. But then you can't go for less. You have to go for more from less. Now that's a paradigm shift. One of the things, Kumar, that we keep on coming back to is the following. That as technology progresses, there's a greater and greater divide that comes in the society. Why does it come? Because on one hand, we do more from more, isn't it? Doing this is more from more. Doing this, iPhone 5 is more from more, isn't it? You create more features, more performance, and so on and so forth. When it comes to poor, we say less for less. Okay? To make it simple, what we say on one hand is that if you are rich, you can have a Mercedes for your transport, more from more. If you are poor, you can have a scooter for your transport on which you can carry your entire family. 5 people. No problem. So more from more, Mercedes. Less from less, scooter for the entire family. But there is somebody who got up and said, no, more from less. Who was that? Ratan Tata. What did he say? He said, for that family which owns scooter, practically for the same price, or a small multiple of it, I can create a nano car. More from less. And the moment that becomes more from less, it is available for more and more people. So more and more, more from more, is exclusive innovation. More from less, for more, is inclusive innovation. You got the point? Simple? I'm a good teacher, no? Now, this idea, in Harvard Business Review, we actually published, C.K. Prahlad and I had actually coined the word Gandhian Engineering, by the way. In fact, I spoke in the university also on Gandhian Engineering, because to Gandhi what was implicit was that the fruits of science, technology, innovation must reach the poorest of the poor and must give them the benefit, isn't it? And therefore, while speaking in Australia, I had talked about this Australian Academy of Science. When I was elected a fellow there, they asked me to speak on innovation. The title of my talk was Indian Innovation from Gandhi to Gandhian Engineering. Okay? And there, actually I showed how the combination of scarcity on one hand and aspiration on the other hand was deadly for India. So with very little resource, how they could create solutions which are of very high quality. Now, the essential issue is that when you look at science, you look at both excellence as well as relevance. Yes, Nobel Prizes, fellowships of Royal Society, American Academy of Arts and Sciences, that is all fine, excellence. But at the same time, there is what is called relevance. And that relevance to India, not some Indians, all Indians, which includes those 700 million plus Indians whose income levels are less than $2 a day. They can't live with exclusive innovation. They have to live with inclusive innovation. So this award that I talked about is for inclusive innovation. I want to give you an example of the award winner this year as well as award winner last year, just to illustrate the point on the kind of attitude we need to develop to find solutions which are science and technology based to make these things happen. This year's award went to a young man in late 20s, Mishkin. What did he do? Well, he looked at anemia. And he asked as to why 1 million people have to die of anemia. Well, the answer is simple. Because they don't know that their hemoglobin levels have dropped so low. Why? Because that is not measured. And how do you measure it? You have to prick, you have to use a needle, take a sample, do an analysis which costs 300, 400 rupees. So he said, why 300, 400? Why not 10?